Have you ever felt a love so powerful it echoes across lifetimes? In a quiet town by the sea, two souls bound by fate find each other once again. But with love comes shadows, hidden secrets, forbidden desires, and a curse that won't let go. This time, will love break the cycle, or are some hearts destined for darkness? Episode 4, Shadows in the House. The night wrapped itself around the house like a shroud, thick and impenetrable. Rain battered the windows, and the old wood groaned under the weight of the storm. Jonah lay in the massive bed, the sheets cool and damp against his skin. His room, once full of whispers and dust motes, now seemed to breathe around him, walls expanding and contracting with the rhythm of his pulse. He had turned off the lamp hours ago, but the darkness was never complete. Pockets of shadow lingered in the corners, shapes shifting just beyond the edge of reason. His eyes adjusted, and the room seemed to stretch, the ceiling higher, the door further away. Sleep came in fits and starts, pulled under by exhaustion, only to be jolted back by the sense of being watched. His dreams bled into waking, images of Callum's painting, twisted metal, red streaks, overlaying the dim outlines of the room. A sound, soft, like a door easing open. Jonah sat up, the sheets pooling around his waist. The air was heavy, thick with the scent of old wood and lavender. He held his breath, listening. The creak came again, not from his room, but from the hall beyond. His feet found the cold floor, the wood sighing under his weight. He moved to the door, each step muffled by the thick carpet. The knob turned easily, and the hallway yawned open, a narrow throat of shadows. The house beckons. The corridor stretched ahead, lined with portraits whose eyes glinted in the thin moonlight filtering through the stained glass windows. Jonah's gift thrummed beneath his skin, a soft hum that pulled him forward. He followed it, his bare feet silent on the wood, his breath a shallow rasp. He passed closed doors, each one a mouth shut tight, and felt the weight of the house settle over him. The portraits blurred at the edges, their faces shifting as he moved. One painting, a woman with dark eyes and a twisted smile, seemed to watch him pass, her expression softening into something almost mournful. The hall led him deeper into the house, past the main staircase and into a wing where the air cooled, and the shadows pressed closer. His gift pulled him toward a door at the end of the corridor, the wood darker, the handle worn smooth. He reached for it, his fingers brushing metal, and the door opened with a sigh. The Room of Secrets. The room beyond was small, the ceiling low and slanted. The walls were lined with shelves, each crowded with trinkets and objects half lost to dust. Jonah stepped inside, the air thick with the smell of paper and age. His fingers drifted over the spines of old books, their titles worn to nothing, and he felt a pulse of memory, not his own, but old, heavy, stained with grief. A small desk sat beneath a window, its surface cluttered with loose papers, and a glass bottle half filled with a dark, viscous liquid. Jonah moved closer, his gift unfurling, brushing against the edges of the room's history. On the desk lay a photograph, its edges curled and yellowed. A young woman stared up at him, her hair pulled back tight, her dress buttoned to the throat. Her eyes were sharp, her mouth a thin line. He recognized the expression, the shape of her lips. Edith. Beside the photograph sat a small leather-bound journal. He opened it, the pages brittle under his touch. The handwriting was tight, cramped, letters pressing against each other as if afraid of the white space. They say I am too loud. Father says the house must be quiet. I try, but the walls whisper and the shadows scratch at the window. I told them about the things I see, and they brought the doctor. I do not like the doctor. His hands are cold, and his eyes are empty. Jonah's breath clouded the air, each exhale a wisp of fog. The room seemed to lean in, the walls curving around him, pressing him into the story. They put me in the room with the straps. I screamed, and Father said I was wicked. The doctor said they would fix me, but the shadows laughed. They are always laughing. A sound pulled him from the words, a soft rustle, like fabric sliding over skin. He turned, and the room had changed. The window was gone, replaced by a wall of stone. The shelves bent under the weight of restraints, leather straps hanging loose, metal buckles clinking against the wood. The bed was gone, replaced by a metal frame, its edges rusted, the mattress stained and thin. He was in a cell, an asylum. The journal in his hand was heavier, the ink on his fingers wet and dark. He blinked, and he was not alone. A figure sat in the corner, knees drawn to her chest, her hands hidden in the folds of a rough gray dress. Her hair hung in tangled strands over her face, and when she lifted her head, he saw Edith's eyes staring back at him, young, terrified, the sharpness of her future dulled by fear. "They said I was broken," she whispered, her voice the creak of the house settling into its bones. "But I wasn't. Not then." Jonah couldn't move. The shadows stretched along the walls, curling around the edges of the light. Her voice filled the room, a thread pulled too tight. "They took my voice. They buried it in the walls, but it found its way back. It always does." The shadows gathered behind her, a dark shape that pulled at the edges of reality. Jonah felt it, the weight of something old, something hungry. His gift shivered, and he tasted blood, felt the cold metal of the restraints against his own skin. Edith's figure shimmered, the room warping around her. She reached out, her fingers bone-thin, and the shadows moved with her, a cloak of darkness that swallowed the light. Jonah stumbled back, the journal slipping from his hand, and the world snapped. The room was as it had been, small, quiet, filled with dust and the echoes of secrets. The window was back, the desk cluttered with paper, the photograph staring up at him. His knees hit the floor, the old wood splintering against his skin. His breath tore from him, ragged and raw, and the shadows settled back into the corners, watching, waiting. A hand touched his shoulder. He flinched, the world lurching, and Callum stood above him, his face half in shadow, his eyes dark. "Jonah," he said, his voice a tether in the storm. "What are you doing here?" Jonah's lips moved, but the words tangled in his throat. His gift pulsed, a wound beneath his skin, and he saw it again. The cell, the restraints, Edith's eyes, wide and wild. I heard something," he managed, the lie slipping through his teeth. Callum's expression tightened, the shadows curling around him, soft and dangerous. "There are things in this house that should not be disturbed." Jonah pushed himself to his feet, his legs unsteady. "What happened here?" Callum's silence was a weight, the room folding in on itself. Memories, nothing more. But Jonah knew the taste of truth, the bitter edge of it. He saw the shadows cling to Callum's outline, felt the house press against him, and he understood. The past was not just a story here, it was alive, and it was hungry. And somewhere, deep in the house, something laughed.